You good, Lee? You good, Lee, over there? Hey, long time no see. It's been a little bit. Solid thumbnail. It's a picture of your face. No question who's in this video. What are you attempting to spell here with this little crop that you did right here? I'm not really too sure. This kind of looks like a Wheel of Fortune type situation. I know what the answer is, but I don't necessarily know if I want to solve for it. It's kind of crazy. I'm not the multi-million subscriber YouTuber. I mean, I know you are, but I'm just sitting down here. This is let's see what this actually turned into. Okay, whoo. That's what I was wondering for a second. Man, saw this and my heart stopped for a second. Gen 1, Gen 9. Quality thumbnail you got there. Keep it up, Big Lee. Thought we were going to have a PewDiePie on the bridge situation here for a second. Dodge that bullet real quick. Hey, what's up, Traffic Cone Virgin Gang? Hope you're doing well. I'm doing pretty good. Today's dope stuff I got in the mail is going to be these Van Gogh sleeves. This is actually the only thing I wanted from the Pokemon Van Gogh drop. Wanted a couple of these to actually put up. If I can get the other ones, that's cool. If not, these ones are great. The Corviknight ones on the bottom, my personal favorite. Like those quite a bit. The Snorlax ones are just classic. They're solid sleeves right here. The art goes hard, fantastic. Not really too interested in the promos personally. Got these from D. Kenway. He only wanted the promo cards and sent over the sleeves. I really do appreciate that, man. Thank you so much. I appreciate the hell out of it. And these are going to be held on to, man. Sleeve collecting. Them the days, you know what I'm saying? Let's talk about something that, it's not the biggest whole thing in the world, but it's kind of funny how things circle back around if you just kind of hang out here long enough. This topic right here kind of was suggested, this kind of shown this whole little thing based off people doing this trend where they're basically talking about Pokemon events or things that happened in the past. Beta Pokemon that were meant to be is kind of a hot topic, especially for newer people stepping back into the hobby. Maybe they never actually saw any of the creators talking about any of the stuff they were going through. I've seen it a good little bit. We're going to be talking about Gorichu today. If you don't know anything about Gorichu, yeah, let me illuminate that for you if you don't know about Gorichu. So Gorichu is a Pokemon that was like one of the proposed Pokemon ever. Pokemon that the games were actually being made way back in the day when they're still trying to think of stuff. It's supposed to be a third tier evolution that was talked about. It's actually been confirmed. Atsuko Nishida basically said, I was told to make a final form to make it look strong. That's right. There was an evolved form after Raichu at the time. Its name was Gorichu. Looks like that. Kind of looks like a little DeviantArt Sonic the Hedgehog type thing. Looks kind of cool. I can definitely see where it's coming from. Definitely a little goofy little guy. Look at him. Look at his little teeth. Look at his little horns and all that stuff. This is something if you haven't really seen too often, you could kind of look at this stuff and be like, whoa, never seen that before. If you've been here for a little bit, I'm sure you're kind of familiar with this whole concept of things. Hell, beta Pokemon and proposed Pokemon, just different designs that were supposed to be being used, are definitely things that have popped up from time to time again. Hey, you know that Cleffa that I use sometimes? You know this one right here, that where I used to make videos where Virginia was in them, and she'd pop in, and sometimes she'd say, yeah, this is like a beta form of like Cleffa that was never used, and it's kind of the same thing with like this. There's a video kind of circulating around that's making its waves. This creator typically makes videos. They don't do bad. They get about 11K, 13K, but this one gets fucking 339,000 views. Wonder what they could be saying in this. And of course, it's going to be about Gorichu, something that could potentially be interesting for people in Pokemon. Let's take a look at this video, shall we?
Be a 3-stage evolution Pokemon from the very beginning. While creating the original 150, there was a Pokemon found called Gorichu.
Oh, I hate to be that guy, but it was actually 151 Pokemon. It's 151 with the everyone forgets about Mew, of course.
Pokemon from the very beginning. While creating the original 150, there was a Pokemon found called Gorichu, which was going to be an evolution after Raichu. Gorichu was confirmed in a 2018 interview as a Raichu with horns and fangs. He also mentioned that Gorichu was taken out of the game for balancing issues because Red and Blue was notorious for having amazing balancing.
I will completely agree with that. That is 100% true. Like, if that was actually what it was being taken out for, the balancing issues of fucking Red and Blue. Bro, I don't know who defends that game, like when they talk about being their absolute favorite Pokemon game. Have you tried going back to Red and Blue? It fucking does not play as well as everybody say it does. I still like it. I still appreciate it. I can go through and play the entire game and have a good time. But holy hell, the modern things they've added with Pokemon have made it so much more playable. Your backpack only being able to hold 20 fucking items. Certain Pokemon just being useless. Yeah, don't even bother using Flareon. Gengar, completely, absolutely useless. You got an Alakazam on your team, you can literally sweep any other Pokemon that's existed. Clefable is dumb strong. Starmie's really good. I mean, Starmie's already kind of good. But like, you get the idea. There was definitely huge balancing problems because there wasn't a separation between special attack and special defense. You just had this stat called special. And then speed was attached to your critical hit ratio. So fucking Pokemon like Persian could just get critical hits like nonstop. Just hit them with a slash, and they're so goddamn fast, the chance of them getting a critical hit ratio with on top of their slash move that has a high critical hit ratio was just gonna fucking hit. That game was unbalanced, okay? You can go on and on and on about that game. It's still fun, but goddamn.
If you went on Cinnabar Island, there was an NPC that actually asked you for a Raichu for an Electrode. And if you traded with him and spoke with him afterwards, he actually mentions that the Raichu evolved.
Okay, so that is true. You go to Cinnabar Island, you got yourself a Raichu, you trade it for an Electrode, that happens, he goes like, whoa, that Raichu evolved. And then, of course, people like went on the whole thing. This has been a thing for a hot minute. People discuss this whole phenomenon, what this Gorichu thing could be, and like this whole thing about Raichu. Gorichu, I'm pretty sure, was like revealed not even that fucking long ago, like the actual designers were talking about it. I can't exactly remember. This has been something that stumped people for a long time, and it was debunked relatively recently, because everything that they're going to say past this is speculative bullshit, and a Google search could have fixed this whole thing they're talking about right here. We'll carry on with what's going on here, but 300,000 views. I want you to remember, goddamn, I wish I could get 300 fucking thousand views just being wrong.
And spoke with him afterwards, he actually mentions that the Raichu evolved. This NPC actually told us that much like Alakazam, Machamp, Golem, and Gengar, Garichu would have been a trade state Pokemon. And Garichu's existence would have been a triple down from Game Freak on the taboo of evolving the mascot Pokemon.
Evolve a triple down on evolving the mascot Pokemon. Bro, Raichu exists. Like, it's already a thing. So a big reason why people think this whole thing happened, like why Gorichu was cut in the first place, is the speculation of baby Pokemon being talked about way before anybody knew. I mean, Pokemon's already teased things from the future in the past way before all that stuff was going on. I mean, literally, Ho-Oh was in the very first episode of like the anime, and that wasn't even out yet. Like, I mean, they were still talking about Gold and Silver. The baby Pokemon, Pichu, Pikachu, Raichu, do make it a third stage. I believe the baby Pokemon thing won over. That's just my opinion. I'm not really 100% sure about this stuff. What I can tell you, though, is Gorichu was never, ever confirmed to be a traded Pokemon, just like Alakazam and Golem and like Gengar and Machamp. That is nothing that was ever on the table. In fact, you do a couple quick Google searches and it'll tell you exactly why this is what it is. I can tell you why right now. So much like everything when moving stuff over, so in Japanese we had fucking red and green that came out first, right? And then blue version came out after that stuff. Blue version had a couple different things that were about that stuff, and the blue version we got in the United States was roughly like a combination of green and blue put together weirdly. It's not quite the same. We never got green version unless you want to count Fire Red Leaf Green. I do like those games quite a bit. But we can read this stuff right here. This literally took me like fucking 2 seconds to find. The evolving Raichu glitch is simply when a man in Cinnabar Island's Pokemon Laboratory requests a Raichu in exchange for an Electrode, but claims that the Raichu evolved after this trade. So it tells you why it happens. You walk in, you find the man, he's sitting there in the corner jerking his ding-dong, and he wants a fucking Raichu. And then you trade him a Raichu, wham, bam, bam, I got a Gorichu, right? So, people have actually found out why this happens, and this is what it is. This is a translation error on part of Nintendo and Game Freak. Meow364 posts this explanation on their Zerzai forum. Also, the guy who says that Raichu went and evolved, I figure out that, though I don't know if anyone else mentioned this earlier, the text was based on Japanese blue version where you trade a Kadabra. In the red version, you trade a Raichu, and it basically says something like trade for Raichu, guy says something about his Raichu. Green version, guy says something about his Raichu. And then Japanese blue version, you trade a Kadabra for the man's Graveler, I believe. And you get a Golem, and then of course, because he got a Kadabra, it evolved into Alakazam. It's a whole fucking translation issue. You didn't even trade the Raichu for that stuff. In blue version, they actually made it so you could trade. I think there's another trade you can do in that game, and to my knowledge, that is the only time you can actually trade a Pokemon for an NPC in the game and have it evolve, because everyone knows about fucking Diamond, Pearl, Platinum, that girl that trades you a Haunter and has a fucking Everstone. Thank you for that so much, lady. But yeah, and you can actually check this in the in-game trades of Japanese blue right there. Cinnabar Island, Kadabra. They want a Kadabra, they will trade you a Graveler and it will evolve into a Golem. That's pretty fucking sick. There you go. Check that stuff out. And then there's another person, Cerulean City. You can trade them a Machoke and you will get a Haunter that evolves. That's pretty sick. If Gengar wasn't completely useless in Gen 1, that would be fucking awesome. It's a translation error. And this person, like, we'll finish their video real quick.
Pikachu didn't want to be evolved in the show, and people loved Pikachu enough to not want to evolve them. And the only character in the game that did evolve Raichu was a gym leader that admitted using Pokemon as war weapons. And now, if you trade Raichu away, it becomes more evil looking in a state with horns and fangs. And it became so powerful that it needed to be removed from the game. What do you think? Should Garichu have stayed inside of Pokemon, or are you happy that it doesn't exist?
I think you need to do a couple Google searches is what I think you need to do do, big dog. Like, I'm not really too mad about this. It's just funny how this whole thing kind of circulates back and forth, and then misinformation gets kind of spread around this stuff. It's not crazy misinformation like some of the stuff going on recently, but I mean, it's just bullshit where it's people, they can find something. They can find this whole ass article and they can run with it instead of doing 2 more searches. It took me 2 minutes to find all this stuff and figure out that that was complete garbage. It was complete bullshit. None of that actually happened. It's a translation error from Japanese Blue, and this whole thing, oh, the taboo of having 3-stage Pokemon, all that stuff. No, motherfucker. There's a Pichu right below it. I'm pretty sure they were talking about baby Pokemon whenever they were, for the conception of Pokemon. I'm pretty sure that was almost a thing that happened. It's crazy what people want to go through. Kadabra over for a Graveler into a Golem. The translation never happened. When you trade your Raichu, they said, oh, my Raichu evolved. They just took that text from Japanese Blue, slapped it on typical Pokemon lazy copy and paste style. We're all familiar with that. And they just threw that up. Bro, I can be wrong and get 300,000. I'm just going to start saying bullshit. I'm just going to not even like do anything. That's how I'm going to get my channel to the goddamn top. Just start spreading things that aren't true, not do any research on anything, read an article and be like, I'm going to run with that and put some cool moving graphics on. That'll entertain the idiots, I guess. I don't know. Like, not the hugest deal, but holy shit, man. Like, it took me 2 minutes to find what you're saying was absolute garbo marbo. And there's just people in the... It's the same with that podcast where it was like the Charmander and Cubone bullshit where people are like, whoa, that's kind of crazy. But any, like, Pokemon fan that knows anything past what you're saying basically slapped it down. 300,000 views, man, for that garbage. All I got. Appreciate it, virgins. See you later. Yeah, complain about stuff. What about it? Do something.